Hello, I'm Greg of Primal Rights. Today we're going to start the first episode in a series on organization. Organization on the reloading bench is a very important aspect of being a rifleman because accidents happen when you are not organized, and everyone has probably heard about some of those things happening to others. Maybe it has happened to some of you. So organization and good organizational practices is a very important thing if you're going to be reloading at your best. We're going to start today by talking about primers, how to organize and how to handle your primers. And this is important if you're loading for lots of different cartridges. And I realize there's probably some of you out there that you really don't load for very many different things. And some of you still, and I would consider some of you very blessed, if you're only using one primer. I do know some folks in our mentorship program, they have one primer. And so their primer organization is extremely simple. You'll find that's a recurring theme throughout this series. If you don't really have much that's different, well then keeping organized happens just by purchasing the same thing over and over. You don't really have to store a bunch of stuff and handle swapping out a bunch of things. But when you're loading for lots of cartridges, it can be kind of a bear to keep on top of all this stuff. So today I'm going to show you how I deal with the organization of primers in my reloading process. Now, step number one is I grab one of the packages that I'm going to be laying out and I open up the boxes. And I just rip the tabs off the front of the boxes. Every time I grab a new sleeve of primers, I just open up and rip the tabs off. That way I've got easy access to get my primers out. And I'll lay them out from smallest to largest in terms of their power. And that way it's just kind of easy for me to keep track of. So I've got quick and easy access here. And then when I want to, I can pull that sleeve out and drop them in my double alpha Primafill to fill up my tubes. Now that's where the next thing comes in. Now you might ask, tubes? Yeah. So I keep all of my primers in these tubes. Obviously the competition primer seeder uses these tubes, and I have double alpha rack here. Now the primer tubes and these double alpha organizational racks are all available on our website, and it comes with a 10-pack. So you get all 10 of these little nuggets here that clamp onto the tube and the rack that hangs them. And it's very inexpensive. I couldn't possibly compete with how cheaply they have these things available. So I like to use the Primafill, which is also available on our site, and fill the tubes up and then hang them on the wall. And you can see historically, I would just put a label behind where I'm hanging them as far as what primers are hanging where. Now this has kind of bothered me. I hate having the labels behind the tubes, and then too, once I grab one of the tubes and stick it in the competition primer seeder, I have no idea of knowing what's in that particular tube that's in the primer seeder. And I'm loading very frequently, and so usually I don't forget, but when I'm doing testing, I'll be swapping primers very frequently, and that sometimes will cause me to forget which exact primer I'm working with that's actually installed in the CPS. This is an Epson PX750. Now this is a label maker. Now some of you probably have used these things in your professional lives. These little label makers come in all shapes and sizes. I got this one because it has a nice integrated keyboard and a big screen, and I don't remember what this thing costs, but it's been well worth it for my organizational stuff here in the shop, and especially for reloading equipment. Now it comes with these little cartridges. So you just load one of these little guys up, and they make cartridges for all kinds of stuff. So if you want stickers that stick on stuff, this is a magnetic tape cartridge. So I can print on this a label, and it's magnetic. I go stick it to something that is metal. Installed in here, though, I have shrink tubing. They sell tubing that you can print a label on with this machine, and then it's a shrink tube, just like you use in electrical work, right? Now the size that you want to get is 10 millimeter or 3/8 of an inch, and that fits pretty good on these primer tubes that we have here. And now these primer tubes are mostly universal, so you can use this trick whether you have our primer tubes or not. So you program the thing with what you want it to say, you click print, and out pops this little nugget. This particular model automatically cuts this thing and all that. So, I mean, it pops out and you just kind of rip a little tab off, and this is what you get. And as you can see, it is a tube. Now, before I heat shrink this on here, I like to put it in the rack and hang it next to the others. And then I can get the height of this thing set correctly so that it all looks good once I get it heat shrunk on there. Once you get it stuck on there, you pretty much have to cut it off. So I like to clock my little pinhole here and then get the elevation of this thing set right. That way it looks good once it's done. Now, those of you that have a heat gun, this is where you'd pull that fancy heat gun out and start warming this thing up. But I'm going to use a torch just because I know everybody out there has got a torch. This is just a simple little butane torch. Let's fire that thing up and just rotate this thing around. You don't want to melt it. You just want to get it hot. So you just put it in the heat. You rotate it around. You'll want to be careful, obviously, since this thing is probably a little bit warm still. Yeah, that's about 1,000 times cooler than it was before. You can see there at just a glance, you can see exactly which primers you're grabbing. I'm going to put a link in the description down below to this little guy. It took me quite a while to find one that had the feature set that I wanted and could do all the things that I wanted to do and the right dimensions and the right capabilities. This one automatically cuts and it prints all different configurations and sizes. There's tons of little tape cartridges available for it. So whether it be stickers, all different colors, different shape sizes, and you can customize how you want it to print on the label to the nth degree in here, and all different kinds of materials and use cases for this stuff. I mean, when I started researching it, I had no idea just how complex these little guys got. You can spend like several $1,000s on these label makers. This was the best one that I found that had a good balance between dollar spent and capabilities that was going to be useful for the dimensions of stuff that I wanted to do here. Anyway, you can find the link down in the description below. Our scripture reading today is going to be from 1 Corinthians 10. Nor should we put Christ to the test, as some of them did and then died from snake bites. And don't grumble as some of them did. And then they were destroyed by an angel of death. These things happened to them as examples for us. They were written down to warn us who live at the end of the age. So the lesson here is don't complain, don't grumble, don't cry about what you don't have or what's not working out in your life, or you might get killed from snake bite. Now the snake bite here is just an analogy to say that, hey, while you're complaining about this stuff, the very thing that you're complaining about is probably going to rise up and destroy you. So the more time you spend complaining, the more damaging you're going to be to your own life because you're not living in a proper biblical state. You're not living in a state of gratitude. And that is what we're supposed to be doing all day, every day as proper servants of Christ. We are supposed to be grateful above all else because there's nothing more important than the sacrifice that was given for us. That acknowledgement simply means that, well, there's just really not much else of importance here in this life, and everything that we need has already been provided. And there is countless other scripture that you can go and find that says that even our worldly needs will be met if we believe in faith. Now, some of you that follow us on Instagram might have seen recently that I went out and bought a bunch of these Bibles. This is the God Bless the USA Bible. The USA and a Bible, a country formed with God. Well, you've got my support on that message. So I went out and bought a bunch of these. Now we're going to do a little thing in the comments here. I have a lot of these Bibles, folks, and we're going to give them away. And those of you that follow me on Instagram, you've already seen we've given some of these away already. But let's do a thing here on YouTube. Do any of you out there know someone that might be just kind of teetering on the edge? They might be just kind of pawing at Christianity, but maybe they're not taking it real seriously just yet. Maybe they need a Bible of their very own. Now, I don't know for sure what the construction of this thing is, but it feels like a good quality Bible, folks. And I would like to give one of these away to someone that you, my wonderful audience, has chosen. So if you think of someone that might be benefited by this, I want you to write that story. I want you to make that recommendation in the comments of this video. And when you do, I'm going to select here in the future. Maybe it'll be in a week. Maybe it'll be in 2 or 3 weeks. But I'm going to go through the comments on this video and I'm going to read all of those accounts. And one of you I'm going to get in contact with via the comments section and tell you to contact me. And we'll go ahead and see if we can get one of these wonderful Bibles, the God Bless the USA Bibles, into the hands of a new and up-and-coming believer. Now, of course, this will be at no cost to them, folks. The shipping's on me, the Bible's on me. What I'm looking for is someone that's teetering, someone that's on the edge, someone that you think might just need that extra little push, and that I might be the guy to do it. So send me those messages down in the comments, folks. I'd like to find this guy and get him a Bible.